Welcome to the Empowered Endings podcast, where you will learn how to navigate the complexities of palliative and end-of-life care in new ways. Your hosts, Dr. Bob and Elizabeth Uslander, have decades of experience raising the bar in palliative care and family support. Join us as we explore the wonders and realities of palliative care, share powerful stories, introduce you to amazing people that we've cared for, and empower you to navigate life's final stages with more grace, dignity, and ease. Together, let's discover empowered end-of-life experiences.
Hi, I'm Dr. Bob Uslander, and welcome to the Empowered Endings podcast. On our podcast, we discuss issues that are relevant and pertinent to people who are facing challenging circumstances in their life and planning for the most beautiful, dignified end-of-life journey possible. And today I'm very happy to introduce you to one of the newer members of the Empowered Endings team, Shannon O'Shea. Shannon, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Shannon is a remarkable person, and I'm sure you're going to get a chance to see why I think that. She is a music therapist and a bereavement specialist, a grief counselor. She wears many hats. She has a very rich background, and really she's dedicating herself to working with people who are in challenging circumstances and trying to bring joy and dignity to their lives through her music, through her passion for just being there for people and being a presence that is making a connection. And music is one of the most beautiful ways that we can connect with each other and with ourselves. And today we're going to focus on talking about music therapy as a tool and what that means, and also as a tool for dementia. We're talking about dementia especially today because September is Dementia Awareness Month. The incidence of dementia is growing dramatically, not just in this country, but worldwide. And there are very few tools that are available to really engage people and support people who are in the throes of dementia. So everything that we can do to make the connections and to bring peace and joy, that's what we're about, and that's what we're here to talk about. So Shannon, can you give us a little bit of a background on how you came to be in this realm of music therapy?
Sure. So I started out in Austin, Texas. There's a center for music therapy there, and the therapists take care of a wide range of patients, and I was kind of an assistant, and I got to see how music therapy worked, and it inspired me to go get certified myself. It was just by chance that I took an internship in hospice. I actually interviewed with Marlo Smith, who works with you, and her coworker, and moved out here to San Diego to join Seasons Hospice. And at first it was going to be a 6 months internship, and then I would move back home and try to find a job. And 12 years later, I'm still here, still in end of life work, and still doing music too. So yeah, I've worked in for Seasons Hospice, which is now known as Accent Care, as a music therapist. Advantage Health Systems, I did some music therapy there, a lot of grief work, some music therapy with grief. And then I was the director of supportive care, helping with bereavement, volunteer programs, things like that for a long time.
Awesome.
I'm also on the Speakers Bureau for the End of Life Choices California. And we just go around the community and educate on the different end-of-life options, including medical aid in dying. And so I am starting to do more private practice music therapy now, which is exciting, and getting a little bit more at the bedside, which I've really missed, and it's been really nice.
Yeah. So I imagine as you started getting more engaged in some of these coordination roles, bereavement support, it's when you're good at what you do, it can be a bit challenging because people will ask you to take on more and more responsibility, and it might actually pull you away from some of the things that that make your heart sing a little bit more, and where you have that one-on-one
Yes.
connection with people.
Yes, when I had the chance to go out in the field with my team, I would get so excited. It made it such a good day. And I almost used it as an excuse, but I would do one-on-ones with everyone just so I could go and shadow them and like be at the bedside a little bit, because being in the office had took its toll, over time.
Yeah, for sure. So you started out as a musician, and then music therapy kind of became the career path. But prior to doing that, what instruments do you play, or how were you sort of embodying the musician role?
Sure. I was classically trained as a pianist. So from the age of 5 on, I had a pretty serious relationship with the piano, and I got a Bachelor of Music at Texas State University. It was my grandma who introduced me to the piano. She loved the Phantom of the Opera, and she would sing opera while I played. And it was actually while she had cancer, and I would go and play with her a little bit, that I started to get curious about music and healing, and music and end of life specifically. There was one time where she was no longer verbal and hadn't walked or stood up on her own, in a while. And when I played the piano, she ended up standing up and like reaching her arms up to the sky. And, my grandpa's just bawling and really appreciating this moment of connection with her. And it wasn't long after that she died. But that always stuck with me of like, wow, she was non-responsive to everything else except for music. Like, what does that mean?
Wow, that's really poignant. And it applies on so many different levels for people in different conditions and states of mind. And clearly music therapy is valuable on so many different levels for so many different kinds of folks who are going through challenges. And I'd like to talk a little bit about specifically about music therapy with folks with dementia. And I'm assuming that over the years you've had a fair number of encounters with people who have been dealing with different degrees of dementia, and I'd love to hear a bit about what your experience has been.
Sure. Especially as a hospice music therapist, a big part of our patient load is dementia care and memory care communities. Ideally, as a therapist, you get to work one-on-one with someone. Sometimes there's a big benefit to a social setting and having a big group of people together that are singing together. That can be very healing.
For sure.
The different communities always would love when the music therapist came, because they would want to stick you in the activities room and just watch everyone come alive, and it would all of a sudden be this big sing-along, and they'd be surprised by who was interacting that day and who wasn't. But how many times someone was surprised by a dementia patient singing or recalling the words to a song is hard to even, comprehend. It's such a common thing in end of life, where I think there's a kind of misconception that, oh, mom's not there anymore. She has dementia. She's no longer mom. She's someone different, which, yes, dementia like changes the brain, right? But music so often can be the bridge to connection, or even just like a human moment of connection. There was a patient I saw a couple weeks ago who is bedbound, nonverbal. She kind of mumbles, and sometimes you can figure out a word or two here and there. But my goal for the session with her wasn't to recall all these memories, but it was to connect with her. And there were some beautiful moments of eye contact and some smiles, and there were moments where she was really spitting out words. I couldn't understand what she was saying, but there was a reaction and a response to it. But my goal in that moment was more of just like the connection. Like, how can I take someone who doesn't experience much connection from this bed at all, and find a way? And music is really effective for that.
Yeah. And I imagine that in those situations, the loved ones, the families who are around when they're able to witness this, they're able to see that connection happening in a way that maybe they haven't seen for, months or years. And I imagine it's very comforting and meaningful for them to have to see that there is still the ability for their loved one to experience that sense of joy and something that really kind of touches them. And that's a lot of people are just more of that. We just want more of that. How can we find more of that? I'm sure you're familiar with the film Alive Inside, which is I believe it was in 2014. I know it won awards at the Sundance Festival, and it's something that it's pretty powerful. So for the listeners, if you haven't ever seen or heard about Alive Inside, I would recommend it. It was a gentleman who went in and looked at the research behind the value of music for people with dementia, and some of the stories and some of the what's captured in this film is there's no way that you won't be brought to tears in seeing how incredibly powerful it is when people who may not have been able to speak, communicate, engage for, again, months or years, they listen to music that was meaningful for them at some time at some point in their life, and they start singing and they start moving and they start, laughing and incredible. It's incredible. And you get to experience that, and you get to bring that to people on a regular basis, which is phenomenal.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
And the interesting part about the recall with a lot of dementia patients is, the memories that go first are kind of the newer ones, right? So you kind of look back to what kind of music did they listen to when they were in their 30s or their 20s. And then you see what, sparks those memories. And it's usually connected to, a life event or something. But I've been, especially when I started in hospice, we were singing so many songs from the 1920s. And that was so fun. But it's such a surprise, to see the difference between like playing that song, playing like a Doris Day song versus a Beatles song, for someone.
Yeah. I'd love to hear a bit about your process. When you get a new client, and you're being asked to go out and engage, what are you, what's the process? What do you do?
Sure. Assessment is so important, asking as many questions that you can get from the patient and then from their healthcare team or their caregivers and their family. Just like I said about the music background, if someone did have a history of playing a certain type of music or enjoying a certain type of music or a specific song that was played at their wedding, those really meaningful songs can be life-changing versus just singing some generic music. Now, unfortunately, songs like You Are My Sunshine just kind of always work. So you have tools like that if you don't have, all the information. But doing the assessment with the patient, learning how to start with something, try to test out some different songs and some moments and see what works and what doesn't, and then following that path. I learned from Marlo in my internship to provide space. So, you kind of play a song and you literally take the guitar and just put it down for a little bit and see what happens. See if someone takes a second and then all of a sudden starts telling a story. But if there's not those big moments of space and silence, then you can end up just filling it and doing a quick little sing-along, which sometimes is what the patient wants. Like, what song's next? What song's next? And then you kind of follow their lead. But I'm a big believer in patient-led sessions. So whatever's feeling good that day, and especially in end-of-life care, it's comfort-focused, right? Our goal isn't to get someone up and dancing and jogging around the block again. It's just, how can we enhance the quality of life in this moment? And then as much like you mentioned family, like as much engaging of people that are meaningful to this patient or this patient's meaningful to, trying to bring them in, I think is some of the most meaningful work too and important.
Yeah, I can see that. Families want to be able, they don't know how to make a difference. They often, they get a little bit lost. And if somebody else can come in and sort of create this experience for everybody and they're all sharing in it together, kind of sort of they can drop into it and not feel like they're having to be in control of the situation and directing everything. So I can imagine that it would be really comforting for a family, for families to participate and let you sort of be the ringleader, cheerleader, all of that.
Yes.
What instruments do you play when you're with patients?
Currently, the main focus is guitar. It's the easiest easiest way to be close to a patient and connect. I could drag around a keyboard and plug it in everywhere I go. I know some therapists do that, and I admire them so much. But to be able to be at the bedside, really close, even have a patient like strum the guitar and like feel those live vibrations, I think proximity is really important for that. So mainly guitar and vocals. A lot of music therapists, especially in other fields, use like percussion instruments and bring something for the patient to play along with. And that is totally an option. But it kind of depends on if the patient's A, interested, and B, capable.
Yeah.
Which is pretty rare in end-of-life work and dementia.
Yeah, I would imagine if you show up and it turns out that, oh yeah, they used to play guitar, they used to, do percussion, then you'd be able to bring the tools that would allow them to participate.
Totally. Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are you familiar with any of the science of how the music this therapy, this kind of changes their brain function? And I mean, I know that there's a fair amount of science behind it. I'm curious about that for those people who are listening. Is like, oh, it sounds nice, but what's it really doing? Is there really any evidence that this is helpful?
Yes. So what we do know is that music can light up all different parts of the brain at the exact same time. So especially with dementia, say you have a part of the brain that is deteriorating, the music is going to kind of activate all parts of it and bring up, like maybe someone's having trouble speaking, but singing is a different part of the brain. And so you can kind of make, again, like that bridge. There's a lot of research in music and neuroplasticity. So like creating new pathways in the brain. So a lot of like stroke victims and people in rehab are using music to get back their motor function and things like that as well. So yeah, I'm not super up to date on all the research, but
yeah,
that's the stuff that gets me excited.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Just, I can imagine that you can sort of even just see it as you're engaging with people and realizing as you're watching the animation and the joy that it's clear that there are synapses firing off. There are things firing off that moments before weren't engaged. And,
yes, like random lucid moments. And when that happens, it's always so exciting. It's like, oh my gosh, she's here for this moment,
Yeah. And again, a lot of what we do is to try to make sure that the patients are having an experience that's valuable. But a lot of the value of this comes in seeing the family members know that there's something that they're bringing to their loved one that is touching them and reaching them in a way that very few things can do. Some people get that from food, right? Some people get that from watching movies or looking at photographs. There's something just deeply, deeply connective and innate, I think, in the joyful experiences of music.
Yes.
So
I agree.
I'm so excited. And Marlo has been part of our team from the beginning, having you joining us so that we can expand that support and that service is really exciting for me, and I think that there's going to be a lot of meaningful journeys ahead that music is going to be an important part of. So
that's very exciting.
Yeah. Anything else that you would like to, any other kind of thoughts that you'd like to share? Like, here's one of the challenges. Mm-hmm. When I bring up music therapy as an option for people, when I go out and I do an assessment or I have a patient who I'm supporting, and I tell them, I think music therapy would be really wonderful, and I think that it's a way to, and I try to say all the things that I know, but there's a resistance to it, and I think because there's a lack of familiarity, of understanding, they have this sense that it's just going to be someone coming and playing music and and not having, they don't see the value in it.
Right.
How do we overcome that? What is your suggestion for helping somebody truly understand and make the decision to give it a try?
Gosh, it's so hard. In hospice work, we would often just go visit them, like get in front of them. Even if they said no, like we would kind of come with the social worker, and if they still turned us away, that was okay. But it is so hard to describe. And then usually once people experience it, they're like, well, why wouldn't I say yes to this?
Right.
One thing I will say is end of life work is often the visits from like a doctor or a nurse. They're usually emotional. They're usually, more work-based. Like, okay, we're going to take your pulse and we're going to change your, bedding, and we're going to do things. And it's not, for lack of a better word, like fun. Mm-hmm. And the nice thing about music therapy is and I think the same for spiritual care, depending on the patient, but it's more of a healing focused hour, something that is comfort and just relaxing, and something that is, I like to tell, especially the caregivers, like, this can be just for you. It doesn't have to be for the patient, but this could be something that's just for you. You're taking care of mom 24/7. How about we do some relaxation? But I'll have to think on that too, because it is so hard to describe. I think there is something about just getting in front of people and forcing your way in the door, for lack of a better word.
And that's been my experience as well. People have they're dealing with so many challenges and struggles and stresses and overwhelm. The idea, it in some cases, it seems like it's sort of superfluous. It's something that they don't see that it would be have that much of an impact. And so we try to help to provide the right motivation and the right understanding. And then sometimes we just say, you know what, we're just going to give you this therapy. We're going to, just give it to you as a gift. If you want to continue, then let us know and we'll continue to make it available to you. If it doesn't seem worth it, then, no harm, no foul. It's okay. But I do think it's one of those things that people have to experience it to really understand the value. And because a lot of people, like, if you say it's fun, it's meaningful, they just don't quite get it. And when you see it happening, you get it.
Yes.
So I think that it's a little bit of an uphill battle to get more and more people to expose themselves to it, but we are certainly we're passionate about it, and we're very, very strong proponents, and I think over time more and more research will come out to demonstrate on an irrefutable manner the true benefits, and maybe that'll help people as well. So
I think so. Yeah. Once the population can catch up with the research, I worked at Palomar Hospital for about 6 months when I had just gotten certified. And every single day in the elevator, someone would say, "Oh, are you a volunteer?" And then I would have to give my literal elevator pitch of like what music therapy is. But it's discouraging, you know, it's hard to so often have to like try to validate the importance of music at the end of life.
Yeah.
And thank you for being an advocate for it, because podcasts like this, you know, if someone listens, it shifts their view, and then when their loved one starts to die, they think about it, and it's those conversations are what is helpful.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm so happy and grateful that you came on to share this. We'll do a follow-up one, because we're talking about music therapy with dementia, but there are benefits to music therapy for so many other aspects of you know, health challenges, end of life care, palliative care, grief support.
Yes.
And maybe we'll do another episode in the not too distant future, and you can actually even play something, so we can get a little sense of your of how talented you really are.
Thank you. I would love to. I'd be happy to.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And so thank you for listening out there. Please check out empoweredendings.com to get more information about our practice and what we offer. And also check out empoweredendings.org so that you can see a bit more about what the Empowered Endings Foundation is doing, including helping to provide the financial support for people to access services like music therapy when they're unable to afford it on their own. Thank you again, Shannon. Really appreciate you being here, and we'll look forward to our next podcast. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you found this episode to be valuable. Having tough conversations about how you want to experience the end of life is so important. And please share this podcast with someone you know who needs to hear it. We're all in this together. For more resources and support, please visit empoweredendings.com. Until next time, remember that every ending can and should be an empowered one.